I found out my brother sold our parents' house the same way complete strangers did. They were standing in the front yard with a real estate agent, measuring the driveway and arguing about whether the old maple tree should be cut down. I was still holding my house key. And according to them, I didn't live there anymore. For a few seconds I honestly thought it was some kind of mistake. Maybe they had the wrong address. Maybe the real estate agent confused the property. But then I saw the sign planted firmly in the grass beside the mailbox. Sold. The word felt like it didn't belong there. That house had been in our family for almost 40 years. My parents bought it when I was 6 and my brother Daniel was 9. It was the place where every memory of our childhood lived: birthday parties in the backyard, scraped knees on the driveway, Christmas mornings where wrapping paper covered the living room floor. The thought that it could simply be sold, like some random property listing online, felt impossible. Yet there it was. Sold. The real estate agent noticed me standing there staring at the sign and walked over with a polite smile. "Hello. Are you here for the renovation estimate as well?" I blinked at her. "What?" "The buyers want to renovate before moving in," she said casually. "They're just taking measurements today." My stomach tightened. "Buyers?" "Yes," she said. "They closed yesterday." Closed yesterday. Those two words echoed inside my head. Closed what? I asked slowly. The sale of the house. I stared at her like she had just spoken another language. This house? She nodded. My family's house? Now she looked confused. Are you related to the seller? My heart started pounding. Who sold it? She glanced down at her tablet. Daniel Carter. My brother. For a moment everything around me felt unreal. The quiet suburban street, the couple walking around the yard, the agent standing in front of me, it all seemed like part of some strange dream. That's not possible, I said. I'm sorry? My brother can't sell this house. Well, she said gently, he already did. How? He had legal authority. Power of attorney from the owner. The owner. Our mother. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. I didn't say another word. I just got back in my car and drove straight to my mom's condo. The whole drive my mind kept replaying the same question. Why would she let him do that? Mom had moved out of the house 2 years earlier after our father passed away. The place felt too empty without him, she said. Too quiet. But she never wanted to sell it. It's still your home, she had told Daniel and me. One day it will belong to both of you. 50-50. That was the agreement. I had believed it. When I reached her condo, I knocked harder than I meant to. She opened the door a few seconds later with a warm smile that faded the moment she saw my face. What's wrong? Did you give Daniel power of attorney? I asked immediately. Her eyebrows knitted together in confusion. What? Mom, did you sign any legal papers for him? She thought for a moment. A few months ago he asked me to sign something related to the house. Insurance or taxes, I think. Did you read it? She hesitated. Not really. He said it was routine paperwork. My stomach sank. Mom, I said quietly, Daniel sold the house. For a few seconds she just stared at me like she hadn't heard the words. Then she shook her head. No. He wouldn't do that. He already did. Her face slowly drained of color as the truth settled in. The house is gone? I nodded. She sat down heavily on the couch. Oh my God. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Eventually she whispered, "Why would he do that?" I didn't answer because deep down I already knew. Daniel had always been different from me. Even as kids he was obsessed with numbers, investments, profits. He worked in finance in Chicago and talked about property values the way other people talked about sports scores. To him the house wasn't a home. It was an asset. And assets were meant to be sold. Still, I never thought he would do it without telling us. I called him that evening. He answered on the third ring. "Hey," he said casually. "What's up?" "You sold the house." There was a brief pause. Then he sighed. "So you found out. You sold it without telling us." "I was going to tell you." "When?" "Soon. After the buyers moved in?" "Relax," he said. "It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal." I felt my hands shaking. That house belonged to our parents. "And now it belongs to someone else," he replied. "And we each get $200,000. I never agreed to sell it." "You didn't need to. Mom gave me power of attorney." "You tricked her." "I didn't trick anyone. You gave her legal documents she didn't understand. She signed them willingly." "That's not the same thing." Daniel sighed again, sounding annoyed. "Look, the market was perfect. The house was just sitting there losing potential value. I made a smart decision." "A smart decision?" I repeated. "You sold our childhood home behind our backs." "You're being emotional. And you're being heartless." There was a long silence on the line. Finally he said, "The money will hit your account next week." "I don't want it." "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm serious. Everyone wants $200,000. I want the house." "Well, that's too bad," he said flatly. "Because it's gone." He hung up. For the next few days I felt like I was walking through a fog. Every time I passed our old street, I avoided looking at the house. It hurt too much knowing strangers would soon live inside the place that held every memory of our parents. But the worst part was my mother. She blamed herself. "I should have read those papers," she kept saying. "It's not your fault," I told her. But she still felt responsible. A week later the buyers officially took possession of the house. And that should have been the end of the story. Except it wasn't. Because 3 weeks later something unexpected happened. The buyers called me. At first I thought it was some kind of scam. But the woman on the phone sounded genuinely confused. "Are you related to Daniel Carter?" she asked. "Yes. We just moved into the house he sold us. And we found something you should probably see." My heart started racing again. "What kind of something?" "A safe in the basement." I frowned. "A safe?" "Yes. It was hidden behind a wall panel. We only noticed it during renovations." "And?" "Well, it's locked." "So?" "We asked your brother about it," she said. "He said he didn't know anything about it." Of course he didn't. But I had a strange feeling. "Can I come see it?" I asked. 2 hours later, I was standing in the basement of the house I thought I would never enter again. The buyers had already removed part of the drywall. Behind it was a small steel safe embedded in the concrete wall. I recognized it immediately. My father installed it 20 years ago. He used to joke that it held the family treasure. I had always assumed he was exaggerating. Apparently he wasn't. After a locksmith opened the safe, we finally saw what was inside. Documents. Dozens of them. And one thick envelope addressed to Daniel and me. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter written in my father's handwriting. If you're reading this, the letter began, then something has happened to me. The letter explained everything. Years earlier, my father had purchased several parcels of land outside town. At the time, they were almost worthless farmland. But recently a major development project had been approved nearby. The land was now worth millions. He had placed the deeds inside the safe, along with instructions that the property be split equally between Daniel and me. But there was one important condition written clearly in the letter. The house must remain in the family, my father wrote. As long as it does, the land remains yours. My heart skipped a beat. I flipped through the documents. Sure enough, the property agreement included a clause. If the family house was sold outside the family, ownership of the land transferred to a charitable foundation my father supported. Daniel had sold the house. Which meant the millions of dollars in land were no longer ours. I stared at the papers in shock. Daniel had sold the house for $400,000. And in doing so, he had unknowingly given away property worth nearly $10 million. When I told my mother, she covered her mouth in disbelief. "Oh, Daniel," she whispered. The next phone call I made was to my brother. He answered with his usual confidence. "What now? You remember Dad's safe?" There was a pause. "What safe?" "The one in the basement." Another pause. "I didn't know about any safe." "I know," I said quietly. Then I told him everything. The silence on the other end of the line lasted almost a full minute. Finally he spoke. "You're lying." "I wish I was. That land can't be worth that much." "It is." "Then we'll just get it back." "We can't." "Why not?" "Because you sold the house." For the first time in my life, my brother sounded completely speechless. And for the first time, he understood what he had done. He hadn't just sold our childhood home. He had lost our father's entire legacy.